Hey guys, Matthew here, and today I'll be bringing you guys an update on my Glacial Cascade Totem build. So Glacial Cascade was changed fairly substantially, and Soul Mantle was bugged, so it did make our League Starter pretty much ruined in a way. I leveled personally with Ball Lightning Totem, and I had no issues all the way until pretty deep red maps, so I did not level as Glacial Cascade. That being said, looking at the clear and just overall base damage of the skill, seems like leveling with it from the get-go would have been perfectly adequate. That being said, it seems like with the change to Glacial Cascade, they really turned the skill on its head. So historically speaking, Glacial Cascade has been known to have very, very, very good single target damage, but to lack a little bit on the clear speed department. And it seems like they basically turned that upside down, and now the clear speed is absolutely insane, but the single target damage is what seems to be lacking for the most part. So the build is basically the exact same as I showcased in the last video. We are MOM agnostic. We are grabbing life and mana. We are a elemental overload build, stacking 3 of these vengeful commanders, which yes have been nerfed, alongside Supreme Ego. Otherwise, we are stacking a bit of mana. We should be Arcane Cloak, but I don't have a level Arcane Cloak, so I'll be using Steel Skin, even if, to be honest, Arcane Cloak would be better. Otherwise, we run Hatred, obviously, in an Essence Worm. We the rest of the gear is pretty regular, whatever gear, a little bit of life, a little bit of mana, some res here and there. There's absolutely nothing great in terms of gear on this build. We are 100% curse immune because we have Numbing Elixir. For 40% reduced effective curses. We also get 20% on Sanctum of Thought, and the last 40% is on our Crusader Ring, which the 35 roll is actually affected by Caster Catalyst, which brings it to 42. So we don't need a Kikazaru, which is actually pretty nice for the build to be completely curse immune. So that's pretty much it. Then in terms of gems, we're running Frost Bomb level 1 with casting damage taken level 1, Cold Snap level 1, and Spell Cascade level 1. That is just to get elemental cold exposure on whenever we take damage. It's just going to proc that under whatever hit us, not under us, which is something to note. We are running Orb of Storms with increased crit for proccing elemental overload, and our gem setup is Cold Penetration, Hypothermia, Glacial Cascade, Controlled Destruction, and Increased Area of Effect. And our gem swap, we are gem swapping Concentrated Effect for single target damage. Our 6th link would be faster casting, and a good way to get a lot more defense and survivability, or sorry, defense and damage on the build would be to use a Pandemonious. Not something which I'll do in this video because that is not a budget-friendly option, but it does give you blind chilled enemies on hit, which is huge, and it also gives you damage penetrates 20% cold resistance against shield enemies, which is also pretty massive. So that's pretty much what's going on for the gem setup. And the build itself. I'm running an Aziri's Foible. It does have Whispers of Doom, but I'm not running any curse on the build. The curses come from the gloves, which normally I would have the curse on my Orb of Storms with curse on hit, which is now called Hextech Touch, and Frostbite. So I'm actually losing some damage effectiveness by running these, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and jump into a map here. I have this T16 alleyways. There's attack and cast speed and monster move speed with chain, but it doesn't really matter to us. And let's go ahead and showcase what the build looks like in action. So, like I said, the clear is really, really, really good with the new version of the build, new version of Glacial Cascade. What's not so great is the single target, as you will see in this map. So the actual clear is basically full screen wide AoE of just things being frozen. It's actually really good. It's got it feels good to it. It clears really well, and monsters that are rare magic packs, bloodline packs, doesn't matter what you throw at it, it pretty much one-shots everything. So in terms of the clear department, I have to say I'm giving this build a really high note because it really does do quite well in that department. As you can see, pretty much screen wide, just everything dying, and that's really good. That's really good. Now, the problem is, once I'm going to get to the boss, you will see that the damage, even with the gem swapping of Conk Effect, is a little bit lackluster. And that is probably where the build falls short, in my opinion, and why I would consider it a fairly decent league starter, because it will bring you all the way to red maps excessively easily on a 5-link budget, no problem. I'm going to go ahead and put in Conk Effect here, and we are going to showcase the single target damage, which, as you can see, is not amazing. I mean, it's not the worst single target I've ever seen, and if you can get the boss in the last Cascade, it actually does feel decent, especially considering this is a T16 map. I am on a 5-link. It's not horrible. I can't say it's horrible, but it does require the totems to hit with the last Cascade, and the knockback on this skill is a bit of a joke. Unfortunately, the knock enemies back on hit seems like it doesn't really affect bosses all that much. So while I did get lucky here that the boss sat in it, most of the time the boss is just going to, let's say I put my totems here and he's right there, the boss is just going to walk up to the totems and then you need to recast them elsewhere and the boss just runs back there. So getting these last bursts to really do damage on the bosses is a little bit difficult. And if you're not hitting the boss with the last Cascade, the damage does not feel good at all. It really feels painful. If you do hit them with the last Cascade, though, as you just saw, it's not amazing, but it's also not what I would consider bad, especially due to the fact that, as I said, we are on a very budget build. We are rocking a 5-link, not even a 6-link. The gem swap is something that I hate, but to make this build really functional in a 5-link, the gem swap is actually pretty mandatory. And also, increased area of effect makes it so clearing the maps themselves is a breeze. I didn't full clear this map or anything because I just wanted to get to the boss to show the boss damage, but that's essentially the look of it. Now, this was an Awakener level 8 map, and I have done Shaper on this build on a 5-link. It's what I would consider decent. It's not like insane, but it's also not bad. That being said, I can totally see very high-end Conquerors and Awakener 8 Sires, for example, no longer being possible on a 5-link with the nerfs. Even on a 6-link, your damage would probably not feel very good if you were to try to do Awakener Cyrus, even with faster casting. It just would not feel that great. Now, is there a way to push the damage up? Of course. We can get much better weapons. We can also get the Pandemonius on the build for an extra 20% penetration, which is massive. We can also get a lot more damage on the tree with levels. We can get better gloves. We can get temple gloves with 50% damage against chilled enemies. That's just a base huge amount of damage for this build. We can also get some, I already mentioned better wands. The enchant of choice, in my opinion, would probably be Glacial Cascade Increased Area of Effect. That one would probably be the one that I think would help the most, both for boss killing and for clearing. The one that gives you 40% more damage on the last Cascade is nice, but it does remove some AoE, which is not very good in a build that really does require AoE for the feels goodness of the build. So the POB is the exact same thing as it was before. Nothing changed at all. We're rocking 3 Vengeful's, same as always. Everything stayed the exact same. So I will be linking this POB in the description of this video for anybody who do want to play this for the Heist League. But I have to say, though, when you do get to the very, very high-end content, you will start to struggle with single target damage, and that is a real shame that they really did hurt the single target damage of Glacial Cascade when it comes to the true, very, very endgame content. On that note, though, I still have to say that for a league starting build, I think it does pretty well. I was playing the Ball Lightning variant in the league, and it got me to T13 maps very, very comfortably. Now, again, when I got to this very high-end content, even on Ball Lightning, it didn't feel very good on my totem build. But switching over to Glacial Cascade, or even actually starting off with Glacial Cascade from the get-go, seems like a viable strategy, because it does look like the base damage and your damage being 100% cold, allowing you to use hypothermia and all that, would probably feel actually pretty decent from the very beginning of your mapping without needing, the extra Vengeful Commanders. You could get those later as you get into your mid-level 80s. And obviously you could sacrifice life early, because the early mapping, you could easily map on 2.5k life and just never die if you're agnostic with Mind Over Matter, with a like 2,000 life pool or so. And of course, Arcane Cloak or Steel Skin on your right click, giving you an extra 1,000 to 2,000 ish shield during your mapping experience. So that's pretty much it for the video. Before I go though, as always, I do want to say a huge thank you to my supporters, and it seems like I did not open my little image here. There we go. Huge thank you to Mario, Luro, Gaikona, Kfish, Dr. Radu, Scott, Zerashi, Kevin, Castigus, Matus, Dieselboy, and Dan S, as well as obviously anybody else who wishes to remain anonymous, and anybody else who has supported me in the past. So, final thoughts on this build. I think it's a good league starter. I think it's going to take you to red maps very easily on a 5-link, and you're not going to have any issues, especially with dying, because you have screen-wide AoE freezes, which are very nice. If you play behind your totems and not in front of your totems, you're also going to be much tankier, because your totems are going to aggro, not you. That being said, if you play like I do, which I'm most of the time just on top of my totems, then it's kind of a 50-50 of what the monster is going to hit between you and your totems. But that is something you can easily fix by playing just a tiny bit slower. On that note, though, that's going to be it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.